Today, we're jumping into the incredible work of the scholar and monk Bhikkhu Analayo. We're going to explore two ideas you probably heard a lot about in mindfulness: compassion and emptiness. And what we're going to find out is that they're not just connected. They might actually be two sides of the very same coin.
We're going straight to the source here, looking at some of the earliest Buddhist texts to uncover a kind of wisdom that feels, well, more relevant now than ever. It's all about connecting that ancient insight to our own, very modern lives.
So yeah, compassion and emptiness. You've heard these words a ton, right? Compassion is all about kindness, the heart. Emptiness feels a little more heady, a bit more philosophical, and usually we think of them as totally separate practices.
But what if that's not the whole picture? What if, to really truly understand one of them, you absolutely need the other? That's the big question we're digging into today.
Okay, so our journey starts with the heart. It kicks off with the practice of compassion, which is really the essential first step on this path.
So let's get clear on what we mean by compassion, or karuna, as it's called in these texts. It's not about feeling sorry for someone. Not at all. It's an active, powerful state. It's the genuine wish for another person to be free from whatever's causing them pain, and it comes from a heart that's wide open to their experience.
And getting this difference is so important. The texts talk about enemies of compassion. The far enemy is obvious, right? It's cruelty. But the near enemy, now that one's much trickier. It's pity. It's that feeling of just getting dragged down into suffering with someone, which doesn't actually help anybody. Real compassion stays strong while wishing them freedom.
To really get this attitude, the texts give us this incredibly powerful image. Think of a traveler, sick, alone, and completely exhausted, far from any help. This is how we're supposed to see someone who's caught up in anger or greed. Not with judgment, but with this deep, heartfelt wish that they find their way, just like you'd hope that traveler finds medicine in a safe place to rest.
Which, of course, leads to the next big question. If you see this traveler suffering, how can you actually help them? What can you really do?
And here we hit a fundamental truth. You can't save someone from drowning if you're drowning too. It's just impossible. Before you can truly, effectively help anyone else, you have to get yourself on solid ground first. The work on compassion for others has to start with the work you do on yourself. And that work on ourselves brings us to the other pillar, the other side of this journey. We're turning inward now, to the wisdom of emptiness. This isn't about the heart anymore. This is about the mind. It's about learning to see things as they actually are.
Okay, let's clear this up right away, because emptiness has to be one of the most misunderstood concepts out there. It does not mean a big black void or nothingness. It means things are empty of a solid, permanent, separate self. It's realizing that everything, including you, is just part of an interconnected, constantly changing process.
Now, to make that a little less abstract, the early texts give us this amazing framework. They break down what we call me into 5 flowing processes they call the aggregates. You can think of them as the building blocks of our experience.
And the similes they use to describe them are just beautiful, and they perfectly illustrate this idea. Your body? It's like foam. Looks solid for a second, but it's fragile and temporary. A feeling? It's like a bubble, just popping into existence and then it's gone. Perceptions are like a mirage in the desert. Your intentions are like a plantain tree. You can peel away the layers all day, but you'll never find a solid core inside. And consciousness itself? It's like a magic trick. Totally convincing, but ultimately an illusion. There's just no solid you to be found in any of it.
So we have the open heart of compassion, and we have the clear mind of emptiness. Now we get to the fun part. Let's see what happens when you bring them together. This is where the real magic is.
See, they create this amazing, virtuous cycle. First, the insight from emptiness shows you there's no real wall between you and me. We're all in this together, part of the same flow. And once you really see that, this boundless compassion just naturally arises, because their suffering isn't separate from your suffering. Then that compassion becomes the fuel, the motivation to see even more clearly, to deepen your wisdom for everyone's sake.
And this is exactly why they're inseparable. It's the key takeaway. Your compassion gets its power and scope from emptiness, and your wisdom gets its warmth and its purpose from compassion. Think about it. Without wisdom, compassion can just collapse into pity and burnout. And without compassion, that wisdom can become really cold, detached, even nihilistic. They absolutely need each other. The texts have this perfect simile for it. Compassion and emptiness are like 2 bundles of reeds. The only reason they can stand up at all is because they're leaning on each other. You take one away, the other one immediately falls flat. They hold each other up. So what does all this mean for us, for our actual lives right here and now? How do we take this amazing theory off the page and put it into practice?
Well, the big takeaway is that there's a clear path. You start by cultivating the heart, you work on kindness, on compassion. That creates a stable foundation. And from that stable place, you can then look deeper, developing that clear-seeing wisdom of emptiness that truly sets the mind free.
And this just transforms how we see everything in our daily lives. With this integrated view, a challenge is no longer just an obstacle. That moment of frustration, a difficult conversation, those aren't interruptions to your practice. They are the practice. They become, as the texts say, food for the practice, a perfect chance to apply both your heart and your mind.
So we'll leave you with this question to carry with you. When you really start to see yourself and everyone else, not as solid, separate little islands, but as interconnected parts of the very same, single, unfolding process, what changes? How does that shift absolutely everything about how you walk through this world?